The small creature pressed himself against the cold crystal wall of the cave. His silver scales, usually bright and shining, now looked dull in the dim light. He was hungry, so very hungry. The Dragonling had not eaten in 3 days, and his tiny body was growing weak. Spark did not understand why his mother never came back. He remembered her warmth, her gentle touch, and the way she would bring food to the nest. But that was many days ago. Now he was alone in the dark cave, with only the sound of wind whistling through the crystal formations to keep him company. The planet Valoria was beautiful, but dangerous. Its surface was covered in massive crystal structures that grew like trees from the ground. They sparkled in the light of the 2 suns, creating rainbow patterns across the rocky terrain. But Spark could not enjoy this beauty. He was too small, too scared, and too alone. Every night, Spark would crawl to the entrance of the cave. He would look up at the stars and cry out, hoping someone would hear him. His cries were not loud or fierce like an adult dragon. They were soft and sad, like a lost child calling for help. Deep inside his heart, something told him that help would come from those stars. He did not know why he felt this way. He just did. Far above Valoria, a human ship moved through the darkness of space. The Stellar Wanderer was a research vessel, designed to study planets and the creatures that lived on them. Inside the ship, a woman named Hannah sat at her station, watching the scanner screens with tired eyes. Hannah was a xenobiologist. This meant she studied alien life forms from different worlds. She had spent 10 years traveling through space, learning about creatures that most humans never even knew existed. She had short black hair and kind eyes that seemed to notice everything. At 32 years old, she had seen many strange and wonderful things in the galaxy. "Hannah, you need to sleep," said a voice behind her. It was Doyen, the ship's captain. He was a tall man with gray hair and a serious face. "You have been staring at those screens for 12 hours. Just a few more minutes," Hannah replied, not looking away from her work. "I am picking up something strange from that planet below us. Some kind of biosignature." Doyen walked over and looked at the screen. "Valoria? That planet is listed as mostly uninhabited. Just some crystal formations and a few wild creatures. Nothing worth investigating. But this signature is unusual," Hannah insisted. She pointed at the screen where a small blinking dot appeared. "It is weak, like something small and young, and it keeps repeating in a pattern, almost like a distress call." "We are behind schedule already," Doyen said with a sigh. "The company wants us to reach the Anders system by next week. We cannot stop at every planet that shows a strange reading." Hannah turned to look at her captain. "What if something down there needs help? What if it is dying?" Doyen knew that look in her eyes. Hannah had a soft heart for creatures in trouble. It was one of the things that made her a good scientist, but it also made her life difficult sometimes. "Hannah, we cannot save every creature in the galaxy." "I know," she said quietly, "but we can try to save this one." The captain thought for a long moment. Finally, he nodded. "Fine. You can take a shuttle down and investigate, but only for 6 hours. If you find nothing, you come back immediately." "Understood." Hannah smiled and jumped up from her seat. "Thank you, Doyen. I will be quick, I promise." 2 hours later, Hannah's small shuttle landed on the surface of Valoria. The crystal structures around her reflected the sunlight in every direction, creating a dazzling display of colors. She put on her protective suit and checked her equipment. The bioscanner in her hand showed the signal was coming from a cave system about half a kilometer to the north. Walking on Valoria was like walking through a forest made of glass. The crystals created a tinkling sound when the wind blew through them. It was beautiful but also sad somehow, as if the planet itself was singing a lonely song. Hannah followed the signal deeper into the crystal formations. The ground was rough and sharp, and she had to be careful not to damage her suit. After 20 minutes of walking, she found the entrance to a cave. The opening was dark, and she could not see what was inside. She pulled out a light and shined it into the darkness. "Hello," she called out. "Is anyone there?" At first, there was only silence. Then she heard it, a small, weak sound that made her heart ache. It was a sound of something young and scared, crying in the darkness. Hannah moved slowly into the cave, her light cutting through the shadows. The cave walls were made of smooth crystal that reflected her light in strange patterns. And there, in the corner, she saw him. Spark. The dragonling was curled into a tiny ball, his silver scales dirty and his violet eyes wide with fear. He was so small, no bigger than a cat. When he saw Hannah, he tried to stand up and look threatening. He opened his mouth and made a hissing sound, showing his tiny teeth. But then he collapsed. He was too weak to even pretend to be dangerous. Hannah's heart broke at the sight. She had seen many creatures in her career, but this one touched something deep inside her. She slowly knelt down, keeping her movements gentle and calm. "It is okay," she whispered. "I am not going to hurt you." Spark watched her with suspicious eyes. He did not know what this strange creature was. She did not smell like his mother. She did not look like anything he had ever seen before. But something about her felt safe. Hannah reached into her pack and pulled out a nutrition bar. She broke off a small piece and held it out toward Spark. "Are you hungry?" she asked softly. "I have food." The dragonling's nose twitched. The smell of food was overwhelming. His stomach hurt, so much from hunger. But could he trust the stranger? Hannah did not move. She just held out the food and waited patiently. Minutes passed. The only sound was the wind outside the cave and Spark's rapid breathing. Finally, hunger won over fear. Spark slowly stretched out his neck and took the food from Hannah's hand with his mouth. He ate it quickly, then looked at her for more. Hannah smiled and gave him another piece. "There you go," she said gently. "Good boy. You are so brave." As Spark ate, something strange happened. When his eyes met Hannah's, he felt a warmth spread through his chest. It was different from the warmth of food in his belly. This was something deeper, something that touched his very soul. Hannah felt it too, a connection, sudden and strong, like an invisible thread linking her heart to this small creature. She did not understand it yet, but she knew one thing for certain. She could not leave him here alone. She would not leave him here alone. The dragonling and the human sat together in the crystal cave, sharing food and warmth. Outside, the stars continued to shine in the sky above Valoria, and for the first time in many days, Spark did not feel alone anymore. His mother from the stars had finally arrived. Hannah spent the first night inside the crystal cave with Spark. She set up a small camp near the entrance, where she could watch over the dragonling while he slept. Every few hours, Spark would wake up crying, and Hannah would gently stroke his scales until he calmed down again. The next morning, she contacted her ship. Doyen's face appeared on her communication device, looking concerned. "Hannah, your 6 hours are up. What is happening down there?" "I found him," Doyen, Hannah said, keeping her voice low so she would not wake Spark. "A dragonling. He is just a baby, and he is all alone. His mother is gone." "Gone where?" Doyen asked. Hannah had explored the area around the cave at dawn. What she found made her sick to her stomach. Dragon scales were scattered across the rocks, along with blast marks from weapons. "Raiders," she said quietly. "They killed his mother for her scales. This little one only survived because he was hidden in the cave." Doyen was silent for a moment. He knew about the illegal trade in dragon scales. They were valuable in certain markets, worth more than gold. "How old is he?" "I think about 3 months," Hannah replied. "Maybe younger. He is very small and weak." "You know the rules, Hannah," Doyen said with a sigh. "All rescued creatures must be reported to the Wildlife Council. They will send a team to pick him up." "I know the rules," Hannah said, "but give me a few days. He is traumatized and scared. If strange people come now, it might make things worse. Let me earn his trust first." Doyen thought about this. 3 days. "That is all I can give you. After that, we must report him. The company will not allow more delays." "Thank you," Hannah said. 3 days is enough." She spent those 3 days living in the cave with Spark. She learned many things about dragonlings during that time. They were intelligent creatures, much smarter than people realized. Spark understood simple commands and could communicate through different sounds. A soft chirp meant he was happy. A low rumble meant he was scared. A high-pitched whistle meant he was hungry. But the most important thing Hannah learned was about heart linking. She found information about it in her research database. When dragonlings were very young, they would bond with the first caregiver who showed them love and protection. This bond was deep and permanent. It was not just emotional. It was physical, affecting their brain chemistry and development. Spark was heart-linking with her. She could feel it happening. Whenever she left the cave to get supplies from her shuttle, he would cry until she returned. When she sat near him, his breathing would slow and become peaceful. When she spoke to him, his violet eyes would focus completely on her face. On the second day, Hannah tried to teach Spark to come when she called. "Come here, Spark," she would say, patting the ground next to her. At first, he just stared at her, but after many tries, he understood. He would waddle over on his short legs and press his small body against her side. "Good boy," Hannah would say, giving him a piece of food. "You are such a smart boy." That night, as Hannah was preparing to sleep, she received an urgent message from Doyen. "We have a problem," he said. His face looked serious on the screen. "My scanners are picking up 3 ships entering the system. They are corporate vessels, but not registered with any legitimate company." "Raiders," Hannah said, her stomach dropping. "Probably the same ones who killed the mother dragon." Doyen confirmed. "They must be coming back to check for more dragons. Or maybe they heard about unusual activity on this planet." Hannah looked over at Spark, who was sleeping peacefully in his nest. "How much time do I have?" "They will reach Valoria in about 8 hours," Doyen said. "You need to leave now, Hannah. Bring the Dragonling to the ship. We can protect him here." Hannah nodded. "I am coming up." But when she tried to prepare Spark for the journey, everything went wrong. The Dragonling did not understand what was happening. He had never left his cave. This was his home, the only place he knew. When Hannah tried to carry him toward the entrance, he became terrified. Spark struggled in her arms, making frightened sounds. He scratched at her suit with his small claws, trying to get away. Finally, Hannah had to put him down. He immediately ran back to his nest and curled up, shaking. Hannah sat down and put her head in her hands. How could she make him understand? The raiders were coming. If they found Spark, they would either kill him or sell him. She had to get him off this planet. Then she had an idea. She pulled out her portable holographic projector and activated it. A 3-dimensional image appeared in the air, showing the night sky filled with stars. Spark stopped shaking and stared at the image with wide eyes. "See these stars?" Hannah said softly, pointing at the hologram. "Out there are other worlds. Beautiful places where creatures like you live safely. No one hunts them. No one hurts them." She changed the image to show a lush planet with green forests and blue water. "I want to take you to a place like this, but we have to leave your cave first." Spark tilted his head, watching the images change. He saw mountains and rivers, forests and meadows, places he had never imagined existed. "I know you are scared," Hannah continued. "I know this cave feels safe, but bad people are coming. The same people who hurt your mother. I will not let them hurt you too." She held out her hand toward him. "Please, Spark, trust me." The Dragonling looked at her hand. Then he looked at the holographic stars, then back at her face. He saw something in her eyes that reminded him of his mother. Not her appearance, but something deeper, the way she looked at him with love and worry. Slowly, Spark moved forward. He placed a small clawed hand on top of Hannah's palm. In that moment, something clicked into place in both of their hearts. The heart link grew stronger, becoming a real bond that connected them. "That is my brave boy," Hannah whispered, tears forming in her eyes. "We're going to be okay. I promise." She carefully picked up Spark and wrapped him in a thermal blanket. This time, he did not struggle. He pressed his face against her chest and made a soft, chirping sound. He was still scared, but he trusted her. Hannah walked out of the crystal cave with Spark in her arms. The Dragonling looked back at his home one last time. The cave where he was born, where his mother had protected him, where he had spent his short life. He did not know if he would ever see it again. The walk to the shuttle seemed to take forever. Hannah kept checking her scanner, watching for any signs of the raider ships. They were getting closer. She had to move faster. Finally, they reached the shuttle. Hannah strapped Spark into a safety seat and started the engines. As the shuttle lifted off the ground, Spark began to panic. The movement was strange and frightening. He cried out loudly. "It is okay. It is okay," Hannah said, reaching over to touch him while trying to pilot with one hand. "I know it is scary, but look out the window." Spark turned his head and saw something that made him forget his fear. They were rising above the crystal formations, above the caves, above everything he had ever known. The planet was getting smaller below them, and above, the stars were getting closer and brighter. His violet eyes grew wide with wonder. He had looked at those stars every night, calling out to them, and now he was flying toward them. Suddenly, alarms blared in the shuttle. Hannah's scanner showed 3 ships entering the atmosphere behind them, the Raiders. They had arrived earlier than expected, and they had spotted her shuttle. "Hold on, Spark," Hannah said, her voice tense. She pushed the engines to maximum power. The shuttle shot forward, racing toward space. Laser fire streaked past them, missing by only a few meters. The Raiders were shooting at them. Hannah twisted the shuttle left and right, using every bit of her piloting skills. She had trained for situations like this, but she had never had to do it while protecting a scared Dragonling. More laser fire. This time one blast hit the shuttle's rear shield, making the whole craft shake. Spark shrieked in terror. "Almost there," Hannah said through gritted teeth. "Just a little more." The stellar wanderer appeared ahead of them, its docking bay doors opening. Doyen had brought the ship down to meet them. Hannah flew straight toward it, the Raider ship still firing behind her. She shot through the docking bay entrance and crashed the shuttle down on the landing pad harder than she meant to. The bay doors slammed shut behind them, just as another laser blast hit the exterior of the ship. "We are safe," Hannah said, breathing hard. "We made it, Spark. We made it." The Dragonling was shaking, but he was alive. Hannah unbuckled him from the seat and held him close. Spark buried his face in her arms and made soft, frightened sounds. Outside the shuttle, Hannah could hear the Raider ships circling the stellar wanderer, but they would not attack a registered research vessel. That would bring too much attention from authorities. After a few minutes, the Raider ships flew away, disappearing into space. Hannah carried Spark out of the shuttle and into main ship. For the first time in his life, the Dragonling was seen inside of a human vessel. Everything was metal and lights and strange smells. He pressed closer to Hannah, his only anchor in this new and frightening world. But as they walked through the corridors, Spark looked up at a viewport and saw something amazing. Stars. Thousands and thousands of stars, spread out across the darkness of space like diamonds on black cloth. They were everywhere, surrounding the ship in all directions. For the first time since leaving his cave, Spark made a happy chirping sound. He had been right to believe. Help had come from the stars, and now he was among them, safe in the arms of his new mother. The crew of the Stellar Wanderer gathered in the meeting room to discuss what to do with Spark. The Dragonling sat on Hannah's lap, looking nervously at all the unfamiliar faces around the table. He had never seen so many humans before, and their loud voices made him uncomfortable. "We have to report this to the Wildlife Council," said Doyen, standing at the head of the table. "Those are the regulations. All rescued alien creatures must be registered and transferred to proper facilities." "Proper facilities?" Hannah repeated, holding Spark a little tighter. "You mean a cage? A research center where scientists will study him like he is just a specimen." A woman with kind eyes spoke up. Her name was Mira, and she was the ship's medical officer. She had already examined Spark and found him to be healthy, just underweight. "Hannah has a point. Those facilities are designed for adult creatures, not traumatized babies. The Dragonling has already formed an attachment to her. An attachment is not the same as proper care," argued another crew member. "What does Hannah know about raising a dragon? They are dangerous creatures when they grow up. Their adult size can be as large as a transport vehicle." "He is not dangerous," Hannah said firmly. "He is a baby who lost his mother. He needs love and care, not a sterile cage." Doyen raised his hand to quiet everyone. "Whether we like it or not, the law is clear. I have already sent a message to the Galactic Wildlife Preservation Council. They will respond within a day or two. He looked at Hannah with sympathy. I am sorry, but this is bigger than what we want. This is about regulations that exist for good reasons. Hannah said nothing. She just stroked Spark's scales gently, feeling his small heart beating fast under her hand. The Dragonling sensed her sadness and made a soft whimpering sound. That night, Hannah could not sleep. She lay in her quarters with Spark curled up next to her on the bed. The Dragonling refused to sleep anywhere else. If she tried to put him in a separate area, he would cry until she brought him back. Mira said this was normal for creatures going through heart-linking. They needed constant contact with their chosen caregiver. Spark had nightmares. He would twitch and cry out in his sleep, probably dreaming about his mother or the raiders. Each time this happened, Hannah would hold him and whisper soothing words until he calmed down. I am here, she would say softly. You are safe. I will not let anyone hurt you. Around midnight, Hannah received a private message on her communication device. It was from her friend Yuna, another xenobiologist who worked at a research station 3 systems away. Yuna's face appeared on the screen, smiling. Hannah, I heard about your Dragonling, Yuna said. News travels fast in our field. Are you okay? They are going to take him away from me, Hannah replied, trying to keep her voice steady. The council will send someone to collect him. I know, Yuna said. That is why I'm calling. I found something in the legal database that you need to know about. There's a precedent, a case from about 15 years ago. A human researcher formed a heart link with an alien creature called a moon beast. The council tried to separate them, but it caused severe psychological damage to both the human and the creature. Hannah sat up straighter, careful not to disturb Spark. What happened? The case went to the Galactic Court, Yuna explained. The judge ruled that in cases where a proven biological bond exists, the human can apply to become an official guardian. It means you would be legally responsible for the creature, but you could keep him with you. How do I prove the bond exists? Hannah asked. Medical scans. Yuna said, the heart link shows up in brain activity, both the human, and the creature will have synchronized neural patterns. Mira can run those tests. But Hannah, you need to know something. Becoming a guardian is not easy. You have to pass tests, prove you can provide proper care, and dedicate your life to that creature. It is like becoming a parent. Hannah looked down at Spark, who was sleeping peacefully against her side. His small body rose and fell with each breath. In just a few days, this little Dragonling had become the most important thing in her life. I understand, she said to Yuna. Tell me everything I need to know. The next morning, Hannah went to find Mira in the medical bay. She explained what Yuna had told her about the guardianship option. Mira listened carefully, then nodded. I can run those scans. But you should know, Taejin is the current chief of the Wildlife Council. He is known for being very strict about regulations. Even with proof of bonding, he might not approve your guardianship. I have to try, Hannah said. I cannot just give Spark away without fighting for him. Mira ran the medical scans on both Hannah and Spark. The Dragonling did not like the scanning equipment and kept trying to hide behind Hannah. But with patience and gentle encouragement, they completed the tests. The results were clear. Hannah and Spark's brain patterns showed synchronization in multiple areas. The heart link was not just emotional. It was biological and real. This is strong bonding, Mira said, studying the results. I have read about this in research papers, but I have never seen it in person. Your neural patterns are actually changing to match his in some ways, and his are matching yours. If you were separated now, it would be traumatic for both of you. Armed with this information, Hannah prepared her case. She spent hours researching Dragonling biology, learning about their dietary needs, growth stages, and social requirements. She studied the legal precedents Yuna had sent her. She made detailed plans for how she would care for Spark as he grew. 3 days later, the response from the Wildlife Council arrived. It was a holographic message from Taejin himself. He was an older man with gray hair and a stern expression. His voice was formal and cold. This is Chief Taejin of the Galactic Wildlife Preservation Council. We have received a report about the rescued Dragonling. A recovery team will arrive at your location in 5 days to collect the creature and transport it to Facility 7 on the planet Nexus. The creature will receive proper care from trained specialists. Your cooperation is expected and appreciated. The message ended. There was no room for discussion, no acknowledgement of Hannah's concerns. Just orders. Hannah felt her heart sink. She looked at Spark, who was playing with a small ball she had given him. He did not understand that someone wanted to take him away. He did not know that in 5 days they might be separated forever. "I will not let them take you," Hannah whispered to him. "I promise." She immediately sent a formal response to the council. In it, she explained about the heart-link bond and included all of Myra's medical scans. She cited the legal precedent and formally applied to become Spark's guardian. She wrote about how Dragonlings needed emotional connections to thrive, not just physical care. She explained that separating them now could cause permanent psychological damage. The response came back within hours. It was another message from Taejin, and this time he looked annoyed. "Your application has been received. However, we cannot approve guardianship based solely on emotional attachment. The creature requires specialized care that you are not qualified to provide. The recovery team will still arrive as scheduled. If you wish to contest this decision, you may request a formal hearing, but this will not delay the transfer." Hannah read the message 3 times, her hands shaking. They were not going to listen. They were going to take Spark, no matter what she said. That night was the worst. Spark could sense Hannah's distress. He stayed close to her all evening, pressing his head against her hand and making worried, chirping sounds. When bedtime came, he would not settle down. He kept looking at her with his violet eyes, as if asking what was wrong. Finally, Hannah broke down. She held Spark close and cried. "I am so sorry," she said through her tears. "I do not know how to fix this. I do not know how to keep you safe." Spark did not understand her words, but he understood her pain. He made a soft, cooing sound and nuzzled against her face, tried to comfort her the same way she had comforted him during his nightmares. They fell asleep like that, holding each other. Neither of them knew what the next few days would bring, but they knew one thing for certain. The bond between them was real and strong, stronger than any regulation or rule. The next morning, Hannah made a decision. She would request a formal hearing Taejin had mentioned. She would fight for Spark with everything she had. If the council wanted to take him away, they would have to prove that separation was better for him than staying with her. She began preparing her arguments, gathering evidence, and contacting experts who could testify about heart linking. Yuna agreed to help, sending her research papers and legal documents. Even some of the crew members offered their support, moved by the obvious bond between Hannah and the Dragonling. Doyen called Hannah to his office. She expected him to tell her to give up, to accept the council's decision, but instead he surprised her. "I spoke with my superiors at the company," he said. "I explained the situation. They have agreed to delay our mission schedule, so you can attend the hearing. We will support you in this." "Hannah, what they're doing is not right." Hannah felt tears form in her eyes again, but this time they were tears of gratitude. "Thank you, Captain. Thank you so much." "Just promise me one thing," Doyen said. "Promise me you are doing this for the right reasons. Not because you are lonely or because you want to save every creature you find, but because you truly believe this is what is best for that Dragonling." Hannah looked at Spark, who was sitting in the corner of the office, watching them with curious eyes. She thought about all the moments they had shared, the fear in the cave, the escape from the raiders, the nights spent comforting each other. She thought about how her heart felt lighter when he was near, and how his eyes followed her everywhere she went. "This is not about saving him," Hannah said quietly. "This is about family. He chose me and I chose him. That is what heart linking means. We belong together now." Doyen nodded slowly. "Then fight for your family, and we will help you however we can." The hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks away. Until then, Hannah would prepare. She would study, practice, and gather every piece of evidence she needed, because losing was not an option. Spark needed her, and she needed him. They were mother and son now, in every way that truly mattered. The 2 weeks passed quickly. Hannah barely slept as she prepared for the hearing. She read everything she could find about Dragonling care, memorizing facts about their diet, growth patterns, and social needs. She practiced answering questions in front of the mirror, while Spark watched her with curious eyes. The Dragonling was growing fast. He was now the size of a large dog, and his silver scales had become brighter and more lustrous. His violet eyes showed more intelligence every day. He had learned to understand dozens of commands and could communicate his needs through different sounds and gestures. One morning, while Hannah was reviewing her notes, Spark did something amazing. He looked at her and made a sound that was clearly trying to copy human speech. It came out rough and strange, but the intention was clear. He was trying to say her name. "Did you just try to talk?" Hannah asked, her eyes wide with surprise. Spark made the sound again, his head tilted to one side. "HNA." Tears filled Hannah's eyes. She knelt down and hugged him. "Yes, that is me. I am Hannah. You are so smart, my sweet boy." This moment gave her confidence. If Spark could learn to communicate like this, it proved he was thriving under her care. She recorded it on video to show at the hearing. The hearing was scheduled to take place at a space station called Unity Point. It was a neutral location where the Galactic Wildlife Council held official proceedings. The Stellar Wanderer docked at the station 3 days before the hearing date. Hannah was nervous. She had never done anything like this before. She was a scientist, not a lawyer, but she had something more important than legal training. She had love for Spark and determination to protect him. On the station, Hannah met with Juno, a council member who Yuna had said might be sympathetic to her case. He was a man in his late 30s with kind eyes and a gentle manner. He agreed to meet with Hannah privately before the hearing. "I have reviewed your case," Juno said as they sat in a quiet cafe on the station. Spark was with them, sitting calmly at Hannah's feet. "The evidence of heart linking is strong. But you must understand, Chief Taejin is a difficult man. He believes strongly in following regulations, no matter the circumstances." "Why?" Hannah asked, "Why is he so strict?" Juno sighed. "Years ago, Taejin made an exception for someone. He allowed a bonded creature to stay with its human caregiver. But the human was not prepared for the responsibility. When the creature reached adulthood, it became dangerous. Someone was hurt badly. Since then, Taejin has refused to make exceptions. He fears that compassion will lead to tragedy. But I am not that person," Hannah said firmly. "I have spent every moment studying how to care for Spark. I know what he needs now and what he will need as he grows. I am prepared for this responsibility." "I believe you," Juno said, "but you will need to prove it to Taejin, and that will not be easy." The day of the hearing arrived. The council chamber was a large room with high ceilings and windows that looked out into space. 5 council members sat at a raised platform, with Taejin in the center. He looked exactly like he had in his holographic messages, stern and unsmiling. Hannah stood at a podium facing them, with Spark sitting beside her. The Dragonling sensed the tension in the room and pressed close to her leg. Several other people were present as witnesses, including Mira, Doyen, and Yuna, who had traveled to the station to support Hannah. Taejin began the proceedings. "We are here to review the application of Hannah for guardianship of the Dragonling specimen recovered from planet Valoria. The council has reviewed the submitted evidence. Hannah, you may present your case." Hannah took a deep breath and began. She explained how she found Spark, alone and traumatized in the cave. She described the heart-linking process and showed the medical scans proving their neural synchronization. She presented her research on Dragonling care and her detailed plans for Spark's future. "Dragonlings are not just animals," Hannah said passionately. "They are intelligent beings capable of complex emotions and relationships. Spark has already shown he can learn and communicate. Separating us would not just hurt me. It would hurt him deeply." She played the video of Spark trying to say her name. Several council members seemed moved by this, but Taejin's expression remained unchanged. When Hannah finished, Taejin spoke. "Your emotional attachment to the creature is evident. However, emotion is not enough. Dragonlings can grow to be 3 meters tall and weigh over 500 kilograms. They develop abilities that can be dangerous if not properly controlled. How do you plan to manage an adult dragon? I have consulted with experts, Hannah replied. I know that Spark will need special training as he grows. I am prepared to work with specialized trainers and facilities. I will not do this alone, but I will be his constant, his family, the one person he trusts above all others. That is what he needs most. Taejin was about to respond when suddenly, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Red lights flashed, and an automated voice announced, "Security breach. All personnel report to safe zones immediately." Confusion erupted in the chamber. Doyen quickly checked his communication device, and his face went pale. Raiders. 3 ships just forced their way into the docking bay. They are boarding the station. Hannah's heart dropped. She knew exactly what raiders would be looking for. Word had spread about the Dragonling on Unity Point Station. They had come for Spark. Everyone evacuate to the secure section, Taejin ordered, standing up quickly. Security will handle the intruders. But it was too late. The chamber doors burst open and 6 armed men rushed in. They wore dark armor and carried heavy weapons. Their leader was a tall man with cold eyes and a cruel smile. This was Ravik, the same raider who had killed Spark's mother. "Nobody move," Ravik shouted, pointing his weapon at the council members. "We are here for the dragon. Hand it over and nobody gets hurt." Spark saw Ravik, and something triggered in his memory. Maybe it was the man scent or his voice. But the Dragonling suddenly understood that this was the person who had hurt his mother. He made a frightened, angry sound and tried to hide behind Hannah. "You cannot have him," Hannah said, stepping in front of Spark. Her voice shook, but she stood her ground. Ravik laughed, a brave little scientist. "How touching. But that dragon is worth a fortune. His scales, his bones, his organs, all valuable. You can either hand him over, or we will take him after we shoot you." "No," said a voice. Everyone turned to see Taejin standing up. "You will not harm anyone here. This is a council facility. Attacking it is a serious crime." "I do not care about your laws, old man," Ravik said, aiming his weapon at Taejin. What happened next was something nobody expected. Spark, seeing the weapon pointed at people who'd been kind to Hannah, did something instinctive. He opened his mouth and released a sound. But this was not a normal Dragonling cry. It was a sonic frequency so powerful that it made the raiders drop their weapons and clutch their heads in pain. The sound was painful for everyone in the room, but for the raiders standing close to Spark, it was overwhelming. They fell to their knees, disoriented and unable to fight. Station security burst into the chamber seconds later, having been delayed by other raiders in the corridors. They quickly restrained Ravik and his men, while they were still recovering from Spark's sonic attack. As the raiders were dragged away, Spark collapsed, exhausted. The sonic ability had taken all his energy. Hannah immediately knelt beside him, cradling his head. "It is okay, baby. You are safe now. You were so brave." Mira rushed over to check Spark's vital signs. "He is okay, just tired." That sonic blast was incredible. I have never seen a Dragonling so young display such a powerful defensive ability. Taejin slowly walked down from platform. His stern expression had changed. He looked at Spark with new eyes, seeing not just a creature that needed to be regulated, but a being who had just protected people at great cost to himself. "He protected us," Juno said quietly. Even though he was terrified, he defended the people in this room. Taejin knelt down next to Hannah and Spark. He reached out carefully and touched the Dragonling's scales. Spark opened one eye and looked at him warily, but did not pull away. "Many years ago," Taejin said softly, "I had a bonded creature. His name was Windrunner. He was my closest friend for 10 years. But when he became ill, the regulations I had helped create said he had to be taken to a facility. They said I was not qualified to care for him. I never saw him again. He died alone without me." Taejin's voice cracked slightly. "I have regretted following those regulations every day since." He looked up at Hannah. "I made those regulations stricter because I was afraid of making exceptions that might lead to harm. But I see now that sometimes the greater harm is in separating beings who truly belong together." Hannah hardly dared to breathe. "What are you saying?" Taejin stood up. I am saying that this hearing is concluded. Your application for guardianship is approved. This Dragonling has proven he is not just an animal. He is an intelligent being capable of choosing his own family. And he has chosen you. Tears streamed down Hannah's face. She hugged Spark gently, careful not to hurt him in his exhausted state. Did you hear that, baby? We can stay together. Forever. The other council members voiced their agreement. Even the ones who had seemed skeptical were moved by what they had witnessed. Juno smiled broadly, happy that justice had been served. As station medics came to check everyone for injuries, Spark slowly recovered his strength. He looked up at Hannah and made that sound again, the one he had been practicing. Eche na. Yes, she whispered, kissing the top of his head. I am here. I will always be here. I am your mother now, and you are my son. Nothing will ever separate us again. Outside the windows, stars glittered against the darkness of space. The same stars that Spark had looked at every night in his lonely cave, hoping someone would come. His hope had been answered. His mother from the stars had not only found him, she had fought for him and won. The news of Hannah's approved guardianship spread quickly through the galaxy. She became the first human officially recognized as a Dragonling's guardian. Scientists, news reporters, and curious people from many worlds wanted to know about her story. But Hannah ignored most of the attention. She was focused on one thing, taking care of Spark. The days following the hearing were busy. Taejin personally helped Hannah arrange everything she would need. He introduced her to experts who specialize in dragon care. He also gave her access to special resources and training programs. It seemed like he was trying to make up for almost separating them. I want you to succeed, Taejin told her one day. You and Spark represent something important. You prove that different species can form real families. Do not let me down. I will not, Hannah promised. I will give him the best life possible. Ravik and his raiders were arrested and sent to prison. The authorities discovered they had been responsible for killing dozens of rare creatures across multiple planets. With their leader gone, the illegal dragon scale trade in that sector collapsed. Other Dragonlings on Valoria would be safer now. 6 months passed. Spark grew bigger and stronger every day. He was now the size of a small vehicle, with powerful muscles and wings that were starting to develop. His silver scales shone like mirrors in the light, and his violet eyes were sharp and intelligent. But more importantly, his personality was blooming. Spark was playful and curious about everything. He loved to explore the ship, though he had to be careful not to knock things over with his tail. He enjoyed playing with the crew members, especially Mira, who always had treats for him. And he adored Hannah with complete devotion. Spark could now communicate in simple words. His voice was rough and deep, not quite human, but understandable. Hungry, he would say when he wanted food. Tired, when he needed rest. And most precious to Hannah, mother, when he wanted her attention or comfort. The first time he called her mother clearly, Hannah cried. They were in her quarters, and Spark had woken from a nightmare. Mother, he called out in the darkness. Mother, where? I am here, baby, Hannah said, rushing to the side. I am always here. Spark nuzzled against her, his large head resting on her lap. Safe with Mother, he said softly. Yes, Hannah whispered. Always safe with me. Hannah's work as a xenobiologist changed. She no longer traveled as much, focusing instead on research she could do from the ship with Spark nearby. The company she worked for was supportive, seeing value in her unique relationship with a Dragonling. She wrote papers about dragon psychology and bonding behaviors. Other scientists cited her work, and she became respected in her field for new reasons. One day, Dorian called Hannah to the bridge. I have received a message from the Wildlife Council, he said. They want to know if you would be interested in visiting a planet called Haven. It is a rehabilitation center for rescued Dragonlings. Hannah's heart beat faster. Other Dragonlings? Spark could meet his own kind. Yes, Dorian confirmed. The Council thinks it would be good for his development. Dragonlings are social creatures. He should know others like him. Hannah looked at Spark, who was lying in the corner of the bridge, listening to their conversation. What do you think, Spark? Would you like to meet other dragons? Spark tilted his head, thinking, other dragons? Like me? Yes, like you, Hannah said. Would you like that? Spark stood up, his tail swishing with excitement. Yes, want to see. 2 weeks later, the Stellar Wanderer arrived at Haven. The planet was beautiful, with lush forests, clear lakes, and mountains that reached toward the sky. It was specifically designed as a sanctuary for rescued creatures, especially dragonlings who had lost their families. As their shuttle descended, Spark pressed his face against a window, his eyes wide. Below them, they could see dragons flying through the air. Some were silver like Spark, others were gold, blue, or green. They soared and played together, free and happy. So many, Spark whispered in awe. They landed near a facility run by the rehabilitation staff. A woman named Jaiwin greeted them. She was a dragon specialist who had worked at Haven for 15 years. Welcome, she said warmly. We are honored to have you here. Spark is something of a celebrity among our community. He is just a regular dragonling, Hannah said, though she smiled with pride. A regular dragonling with an extraordinary mother, Jaiwin replied. Come, let me show you around. They walked through the sanctuary. Spark stayed close to Hannah at first, nervous about the new environment. But then a young dragonling, slightly smaller than Spark and colored bright blue, approached them cautiously. This is Stream, Jaiwin said. She was rescued 3 months ago from traders. She is still learning to trust people. Stream and Spark looked at each other. They made soft chirping sounds, a dragon greeting. Slowly, they touched noses, a sign of friendship. Then Stream made a playful sound and bounded away. She looked back at Spark, clearly inviting him to play. Spark looked up at Hannah uncertainly. Go ahead, Hannah encouraged. Go play. I will be right here. With that permission, Spark ran after Stream. The two young dragons chased each other through the grass, making happy sounds. Other young dragonlings joined them, and soon Spark was part of a group, playing and roughhousing like any young creature would. Hannah watched with tears in her eyes. This was what she had wanted for him. Not just her love, but full life with friends and experiences. He is happy, Jaiwin observed, but notice how he keeps looking back to check that you are still there. It was true. Every few minutes, Spark would stop playing and search for Hannah with his eyes. When he found her, watching from a distance, he would relax and return to his games. The bond you two share is special, Jaiwin said. I have worked with many dragonlings, and I have never seen one so secure and confident. That comes from having a parent who truly loves him. They stayed at Haven for 2 weeks. During that time, Spark learned many things from the other dragons. He learned how to fly properly, gaining strength and grace in the air. He learned dragon social behaviors, like how to show respect to older dragons and how to play without hurting smaller ones. He even learned some of the dragon language, sounds and gestures that humans could not make. But every night, Spark returned to Hannah. He would curl up next to her sleeping quarters, too large now to fit inside, but close enough to feel safe. And every morning, the first word he said was "Mother." On their last day at Haven, something wonderful happened. Spark took Hannah flying. He was now large enough and strong enough to carry her safely on his back. At first, Hannah was nervous, but she trusted him completely. Hold tight, Mother, Spark said, his voice full of excitement. Hannah climbed onto his back, gripping the ridges of his scales. Spark spread his magnificent wings and launched into the air. They rose higher and higher until the sanctuary below looked like a painting. Oh, Spark, Hannah breathed. This is amazing. Spark flew smoothly, careful to keep his movements gentle for his mother. They soared over forests and lakes, through clouds and sunshine. For the first time, Hannah truly understood what it felt like to be a dragon, to have the whole sky as your home. Thank you, Mother, Spark said as they glided. Thank you for finding me. Thank you for fighting for me. Thank you for loving me. Hannah leaned forward and hugged his neck as much as she could. Thank you for trusting me. Thank you for being my son. You have made my life complete. They flew together for an hour, mother and son, human and dragon, two beings who should never have met but who now could not imagine life apart. When they returned to the Stellar Wanderer, The crew noticed something different about both of them. Spark carried himself with new confidence, proud of his abilities and his heritage. And Hannah seemed more at peace, knowing that she had given Spark everything he needed to thrive. That evening, as the ship prepared to leave haven, Hannah and Spark stood together at the observation deck, looking out at the stars. Those same stars that Spark had watched from his lonely cave so many months ago. "Remember when you were small?" Hannah asked softly. "When you were alone and scared?" "Remember," Spark replied. "Very sad, very lonely." "You called out to the stars every night," Hannah continued. "Somehow, you knew someone would come." Spark looked at her with his intelligent violet eyes. "Knew Mother would come. Felt it in heart." "I felt it too," Hannah said. "The moment I heard your cry, something in my heart knew I was meant to find you. We were meant to be family." Spark made a rumbling sound of contentment, the dragon equivalent of a purr. "That's family. Forever family." "Forever family," Hannah agreed, wrapping her arms around his large neck. Outside the window, the stars shone bright and eternal. They had witnessed the beginning of an impossible friendship, a bond that crossed the boundaries of species and biology. They had seen an abandoned Dragonling wait for love, and they had seen a mother appear from among their number to answer that call. In the end, it did not matter that Hannah was human and Spark was a dragon. It did not matter that regulations said they should not be together. Love had proven stronger than rules, stronger than fear, stronger than difference. A tiny Dragonling had waited in the darkness, believing in something he could not see, and his faith had been rewarded. His mother had come from the stars, just as he always knew she would. And now, together, they would explore those stars as a family, writing their own story among the infinite possibilities of the universe. Mother and son, human and dragon, bound not by blood, but by something far more powerful. By love, by choice, by the unbreakable bond that forms when two hearts, no matter how different, recognize each other as home.